Hello and welcome to part 2 of my toolbox tour. Start you off right away with the very top drawer. One thing I don't like about the top drawer on this toolbox is it's a narrow drawer. Usually your top drawer is for your sockets. Well, my top drawer is for my metric wrenches. Starting off on the left-hand side here, I have my Craftsman Professional ratcheting wrenches that also have an offset. These I do like because there's a locking offset. Some of them do not lock. You have my cheap, what are these? These are the Pitsburgh line wrenches. Got your box wrenches there. Pitsburgh stubby ratcheting wrenches. Your Craftsman ignition wrenches. Why they're called ignition wrenches, I really don't have a good answer for you, but when I did used to work on vehicles professionally, I did use a lot of the metric wrenches, especially on Fords, to get the steering wheel surround out, as far as the tilt, to change the key cylinders. I did have to use a lot of those smaller wrenches, and those are perfect. Got some more of the regular stubbies, and then you got the S-shape and U-shape wrenches that everybody seems to have but never uses, and that's one of the things I bought them for as well. I thought they'd be very useful for tight reach places, so you don't have to scrape up your arms and fingers, but never used them. My go-to wrenches of all the time here are my Craftsman. These are just the basic Craftsman series wrenches, but they work perfectly. They've never stripped. They grab 100%, and I just love them. Recently, I switched over to Icon wrenches when they had their sale this past December. I used to have, well, I still do have, Craftsman Professional polished wrenches. But since they're getting older, they're more considered vintage, and the price value of them has skyrocketed. I've seen the metric set go for about $400 or $500 compared to spending $60 for a set of Icon wrenches. So it's a no-brainer to keep the Craftsman ones separate, so I can clean those, just put them away for insurance policy, I guess you want to say. I can sell them later down the road, get more tools. So I started off with the Icon series, like I said, this past winter. I got the full polished of the regular size, and then I got the jumbo size as well. I also got the ratcheting of the metric. Another set that I really do like are the gear wrench crossbeam or X-beam series. These are ratcheting ones. I have them also in Craftsman, but in standard, when they're not ratcheting. These I do love because you can put a lot of force on them, and you don't kill your hand on the edge of the ratchet, so you don't have to use like a dead blow hammer or a rubber mallet to hit your wrench. Then I got my giant 24 millimeter. I needed this on our Grand Cherokee for when I replaced the springs. I needed that for the spring compressor tool. Going down to my next drawer, my standard wrenches. Here are the original crossbeam Craftsman ones, which are not ratcheting, but I just love these things, especially for oil changes. You can really grab onto that bolt and just give it a quick smack and breaks that oil plug free. But I got the Icon and standard. I don't care so much about the trays. I don't know if I want to keep them or not. I kind of wish that they were the softer trays compared to the hard plastic trays. But at least for now, it keeps them organized. But it does take up a lot of room in here. So, got to figure out something for better storage as well as display. But we have our box wrenches, same thing, flare, ignition, and the stubbies as well. Then we got one more set of wrenches, which are also standard. Got your ratcheting Icon ones, standard Craftsman. Then you got your Pitsburgh ratcheting small stubby ones. Got your offset S-type. The Craftsman ratcheting, which also have the swivel heads, as well as the Craftsman ratcheting ones. This one, or these type I should say, I never really used because I didn't care for the finish on them. I like holding on to either the standard or the chrome finish. They just seem to fit better in my hand compared to that weird texture. Plus, these also seem to rust a lot since they're not polished. But I do like them. Next drawer down are my breaker bars, my extended ratchets, the extensions, swivels, all that for you. Just upgraded to the Icon series for the large. I got the 3/8 and a half. Did those last fall or summer when they had them on sale. Before that, I just used a bunch of generic ones, which I don't even know if they even have a name. PT, which I know stands for something, but can't think of the top of my head. But those have worked great. I've never had an issue. They've never stripped teeth. They've never bent. They're as good as a breaker bar is. And as far as breaker bars, I got the long 24-inch and ½ inch. Got the ratcheting ½ inch, ratcheting 3/8, little 18-inch 3/8. Don't have a really big one yet. That's one of my things I want to get this year is a long, maybe an Icon series, maybe a Quinn, we'll see, but a long breaker bar. But I notice when you get up to the longer ones, you almost need to get a 3/4 inch. As far as the extensions, I just got a cheap Husky set, a couple sets of probably from Amazon or eBay. Frankly, I don't care if they're Chinese stuff because I've honestly never broken anything that is Chinese. I mean, I'm sure if you do it day in and day out, you might break something, but to me, a tool is a tool. As long as it works, I'm not brand loyal. I do love my Craftsman because that's what they had back when I did work on vehicles, because I couldn't really afford a lot of Snap-on stuff, so I went to the Craftsman, and back then, the Craftsman was made in the USA, and phenomenal warranty, and they just didn't break. But nowadays, like I said, the Chinese stuff seems to work just as good for the, the at-home DIYer or the smaller shops. Next drawer is my socket drawer, which normal toolboxes have them up on top, so you can have all your sockets in one big drawer. Fortunately, I don't have that option, so I got my ½ inch chrome-plated and the ½ inch impact. Again, majority of them are Craftsman. Craftsman Impact, and then the Craftsman regular. Of course, this one's not that's clutch from, what was it, Northern Tool. Here's a Dewalt one. Somewhere in here I have Craftsman. There's a Craftsman. Some of them are laser etched, some of them are old school, before laser etching was out. Like I said, I'm not brand specific. I just wanted to fill up the trays as best as possible. I also have some of the axle nuts, the 36 millimeter to 32. This is for a hub, spindle hub on a Ford, when I had my old Ford Bronco, which I never should have got rid of. Going into the 3/8 sockets, I don't have any of the 3/8 impact in this drawer because we're out of room. But I got my 3/8 1/4 inch. I got my Quinn spline drive that I got when those were on sale last year. Spark plug wrenches, my different adapters, Torx, hex. I got Snap-on inverted Torx, as well as some Snap-on magnetic ones, which I really love because when you have a small screw in the dashboard, they stick to it really well and they don't fall off. Going down to my other drawer is also sockets. Going back to magnetic, I got magnetic Torx, which are wonderful. I also have these Snap-on magnetic adapters. They go right into your back of your socket, have a magnetic tip, and it makes your socket magnetic. They only work for the shallow sockets, not the deep sockets. But I got that in 1/2 inch, 3/8, and 1/4 inch. This drawer is very messy because I got a bunch of odd size sockets and socket sets and no way to display them. So I got my metric U-joint sockets or swivel sockets, depending on how you want to say it. I obviously got my O2 sensor socket here, some extractors, nutcrackers, another oil pressure socket for my my Sierra that I had to use, an O2 wrench, drain pan socket. I noticed a lot of Fords and European vehicles are having odd size drain pan plugs where you can't use a 3/8 or a hex or something. So I had to get this set here just to use a couple of them. But those are for your drain pans, for your oil transmission, whatnot. That guy here is your set to remove stripped lug nuts. I used them and I had 0 success. They rounded off the lug nut even more, where I had to end up drilling out the center of the stud to get the seized lug nut off, and then had to pound out the stud and replace the stud. Don't know if any of you gotten these to work, but no matter how hard I banged them on, they just stripped the soft metal on the lug nut. So it probably depends on the lug nut. Got a Craftsman bolt-out set, which is more for screws, I guess, than bolts, but call it what you want. Another O2 sensor kit. They sure do put those things in weird spots. You got to have a bunch of different O2 wrenches to get them out. You got the Quinn low-profile 1/2 inch sockets. These work really nice, like for fan belts, for the tensioners, and getting the fan blades out, and anything in the engine compartment because there's no room down there whatsoever. Got a Craftsman bolt-out kit as well. I have terrible luck with these things. I always have to drill out the bolts instead of using the extractors. Metric spline drives. These have the security heads on them. I bought these because I needed them for something. I honestly don't remember what I needed them for. So, of course, I've never used them. But when I figure out what I need them for, I have them. And you got your different petcock sockets for flushing your radiators. This guy I like because it's got almost all the sets for standard, up to what is that, 1 1/8 up to I think 24 millimeter. Problem with this set is they need to make these things removable because you got to basically take the whole thing and twist it on a stud to figure out the thread. Or if you're lucky enough, you got the thing with you to stick it in. But pros and cons, just like everything else. Got the Pitsburgh lug nut socket set. Thin wall with anti-scratch. These I use a ton, or at least the 19 millimeter I use a ton. The rest of them really don't see any use. It's an axle nut set. From what, 29 to I think 38 millimeter, yeah. It's cheaper buying the whole kit. Again, this is some cheap Chinese knockoff, but the whole kit, I think I paid $30, where just one socket was $15. So for the price of 2 sockets, I got the whole kit. It was a no-brainer. Got my long Allen set, as well as they got impact Allen, both metric and standard. Back here I got my weight distribution hitch bars, which aren't really supposed to be in there. They should be in the trailer, but I'm too lazy, as well as a tire changing rod, which I use for a pry bar, because you're not supposed to use just screwdrivers, which I won't comment on. Down here, you got this cheap piece of metal, which is for doing front end alignments, which works somewhat, gets you out of a jam at least. Craftsman pry bars. I do want to upgrade also this year to Icon ones, just because it's a Craftsman. I kind of want to keep them as good as possible. Homemade drift pin. Actually, a customer gave that to me. Big old 24-inch adjustable wrench, because you just never know when you need a big adjustable wrench. You got a, don't know what brand, performance tool, that's what PT stands for. Slide hammer set. I used that long time ago. It was in my mother's car. I think I had to replace a wheel bearing or something. She had an old Sable that everything was stuck with. So I had to use it for that. You can never have enough different push pins and stuff for your door panels and trim. This is just the miscellaneous set that I got on eBay. I think it has like 1,000 pieces for 20 bucks. And then you got your more professional looking kit, which I think I got on Amazon for $20 or something. Camber gauge for checking your camber. Here's some of the wheel studs for the Grand Cherokee I was talking about. More pins. This is your tool for putting in the wheel studs, as well as this tool here I love for cleaning the wheel studs for doing brake jobs. You just put that right over your wheel stud, put on a drill, cleans off your disc brake really nicely. Then we got a seal installer. I got this, man, close to 20 years ago. I bought this when I had my 90 Bronco. Had to replace the rear main seal. Thought I'd be able to use this to replace the seal in the rear main. Of course, none of them were the right size. So here it is, all looking nice and pretty still. But if I ever need it, I have it, which is how most tools go. Got a Weaver hydraulic remover to remove drum brakes, disc brakes, whatever I have that's stuck. Works really good. Inner tie rod tool, which doesn't want to move. There you go. Inner tie rod tool. Haven't had to use that for quite a long time because everything, well, I work more on trucks now, but so everything comes off a lot easier, unlike this case. Yeah, I'll put that stuff away later. Going up to the top here are the ratchets. I do like collecting ratchets, and I know a lot of you like collecting ratchets. I got my 1/4-inch Snap-ons, 1/4-inch Icons, 3/8 Snap-on, 3/8 Craftsman, low profile. Recently got the Icon series. I haven't used those yet. They seem nice. I don't know if I like the cushion grip or so-called cushion grip. I'm used to having the bare metal. This is my go-to one. It does not even have a brand on it, but it's got the flex head as well as telescoping. I've put probably more torque on this thing than I should for 3/8. I mean, I basically use this as a breaker bar, and it's never failed me. That's why it's my go-to wrench, even with having the flex head on there. Another Craftsman with the, it's supposed to be a low profile, but not so much. Pitsburgh, more Craftsman. These are what? These are Pitsburgh as well, 1/2 inch. These are the ones that swivel to the side. Don't really care for them, but hey. Let's see, we got a Snapon 1/4 inch one, which are for your different screwdriver bits. Another Craftsman. This one I do have to rebuild because it does tend to skip, or at least go forward, switches from forward to reverse by itself a lot. Double-sided one. Kind of a gimmick, I think, but I have used it. More of your stubby wrenches. Don't mind this, I just wish you could lock into position, because once you start putting torque on it, it moves on you. And of course you got your stubby ratchets. Use that in tight spots, as well as the gear wrench. I don't even know what you can call these, but I use those for starters, basically. You got the gear wrench, and this is a 1/4 inch cobalt one. It's nice for getting in there, starting the sockets, especially since the sockets don't have knurled edges. That would help a ton. I got my screwdrivers. Some of my screwdrivers, I collect screwdrivers like there's no tomorrow. I probably have more screwdrivers than I do sockets, and I have probably 10, 15 different socket sets. As I was saying about the whole screwdriver pry bar thing, this is my go-to screwdriver when I need to pry something open. And then we got the gasket scrapers, as well as your inspection mirror, which is always in the wrong spot, so you never really see it, as well as your pickup tools, drift pins, chisels, line hose clamps, as well as your hose picks. Gotta have your safety glasses, even though none of us really use them. The only time I probably use them is when I'm using a grinder. But I got the clear, as well as the tinted, and most recently I've got the Dewalt with the reading glasses built in, because I'm at the age now where I have to use reading glasses, which is no fun. Next drawer down is your miscellaneous hardware drawer. Have your brake fittings, brake gasket washers, all your other different washers, bolts, nuts, metric, standard, Eclipse, cotter pins, basically anything that Harbor Freight sells or doesn't sell, as well as the hose clamps, Zerk fittings, set screws I use a lot because I always lose them. Fortunately, I've yet to find a metric set, but one day I will. Bottom drawer I'm going to skip over right now and come over to this side. This is my knife / box opener. When Amazon comes, I can quickly grab a box opener, as well as my adjustable wrenches. Back before Sears even said Craftsman on it. More cheap screwdrivers, but when I need to run into the garage, grab a screwdriver, I grab the cheapy ones instead of my good ones. tire inflator. Obviously, you got to have your gauge reader, laser, thermometer, as well as your blowguns. And most importantly, got to have your remote control for your air conditioner, which make sure you take the batteries out because next year they'll be all corroded. This is my battery, ignition, and tire drawer. Start back here. Of course, you have all your different wire brushes. You got stainless, you got copper, you got brass, you got whatnot. Different fittings for your batteries, for doing amplifiers or whatnot. I keep all the different battery caps because you just never know. Got a blue point / Snapon, there's a Snapon flare tool, which is for opening up your connector like that, as well as a Snap-on, or is that a blue point? That's a Snap-on. This clips on to pull them off easier instead of using your screwdriver pry bar, as well as a nice Snap-on fuse tester, which does not work. Gotta love Snap-on sometimes. Got some air conditioning stuff in here. Supposed to use these to check your belts, since newer belts nowadays you just can't rely on if they're cracked or not. You got to check the depth of the teeth. Got a gauge here for your lug nut spacing or your wheel spacing, so you know which rims to get. Battery brush, a GM battery removal tool, spark plug tester tool, tire depth gauges. Even though I don't go by the depth or even the age of the tire, I go by if they're bald or not. Hammers. I got these cheap ones, which don't even have a brand. These are my go-to ball peen hammers. They've never failed me. They're fiberglass, and I've beaten the snot out of them, and they last. I upgraded to a Icon 32 ounce. Going to get some more of the less weight Icon wrenches or ball peen hammers. Try those out. Dead blow, I use like crazy. I do want to get a larger one, maybe like a 3-pound dead blow. And this is how I store my zip ties. I know a lot of you who use like PVC pipes and hang them and stuff. Well, I don't have the wall space, so I just stick them in a bag, or else I just wire tie them together, and there they are. Soldering is a thing I used to do a lot, because I used to do a lot of car audio. I install alarms, remote starters, anything electrical inside the vehicles. So I got a lot of the solder, different tapes. My Ultra Torch is my go-to for the soldering. Do need to get some more tips though. Heavy duty Craftsman professional soldering iron. This is a 400 watt. Then I got another one, which is a 300 watt. Then we have just your normal torch, which I use more for heat shrink, which now I don't even use that for heat shrink because I got a fancy mini heat shrink gun, or a mini heat gun that I use for heat shrink. As well as I got my Milwaukee heat gun, and that's a cheap heat gun that I got off Amazon, as well as some glue guns, which don't even have a brand. But yes, still use hot glue, unfortunately. This is my suspension kit, or box, I should say, down here. I got the old Harbor Freight Hope You Don't Die spring compressors. I got a power-built spring compressor kit. I thought it was going to work better than the Harbor Freight Hope You Don't Die, but it's made completely differently. It's made to go inside the spring instead of outside the spring, and well, unfortunately, with the Grand Cherokee that I had to use for the spring kit, if I use it for inside the spring, the tool would be part of it, so I was not able to use that. So I bought, again, cheap Chinese ones off Amazon. These worked great. I had zero issue. This bar goes in between so you don't twist your two different polars so they keep in alignment, they don't fall off. I was amazed. I think I paid $40 for this kit. It worked tremendously better than the Hope You Don't Die Harbor Freight ones. Of course, you got your pickle forks for your ball joints. Don't have a ball joint removal tool. That's one of the things on my ever-expanding to-get list. Got to have your 8-inch C-clamp for doing brakes, pushing in the pistons. I got the Maddox ball joint service kit. I used this for the ball joints on the Grand Cherokee. I impressed and not impressed. I did strip the threads on it, as well as it didn't come with a lot of the cups that I needed. So I had to buy an adapter kit. They had the cups and the threads. I basically just made them work. In our final drawer is my blow molded diagnostics in there. Start off with this guy, which always falls out of the holder. Hydraulic press for your battery terminals. I do have, which was in my top drawer, one that you put the battery in or the cable in and you smack it down with a hammer. This is a lot better. Even though the case is less to be desired. Next, we have our brake caliper tool. So I don't have to use my 8-inch C-clamp anymore, even though I do. For all your Ford, GM, whatnot, push in your pistons when you do your calipers or just your brakes. Fuel pressure gauge diagnostic kit. Obviously, make sure you have fuel pressure. Again, not an expensive one, just a cheapy one off Amazon. They do work. You know, if you're doing race cars or something, then yeah, you can use a Snapon or Mako one, but for your everyday driver, you do not need a high-end one. Line disconnect kit. Again, for your fuel rails, your air conditioning, some of the coolant lines use these, as well as probably your transmission lines do too, depending on the vehicle. Going with your fuel pressure kit, another nice one to have is a Noid kit. Checking out your fuel injectors. You have a different, depending on your plug, there's different pinouts, different size pins. Plug that into your injector harness, and there's a little LED in there that will pulse and let you know that your injectors are actually, or at least your harness is getting the signal. Next, we got another fuel and vacuum pressure tester. Basically the same thing as the other one. Just it doesn't have all the fun accessories. US General compression tester. Check for your blown head gaskets, or if you have any cylinder wall leakage, and just see if you have any leak down. Again, cheap china. Don't need the fancy stuff. Got your tire patch kit. I know a lot of people say that these ones break. Well, you don't have to hammer them in. You're supposed to screw them in. I've never had a problem having those break. You got oil pressure tester. Make sure you have enough oil pressure. Again, this is a cheapie. For all these testing tools, I probably spent half the price of a Snap-on or Mako one just for all these. My final thing in my toolbox is my Craftsman Professional Brake Bleeder Kit, which I no longer use because I have, what's that called, the Mighty Vac. I use that. But still, it's a very nice kit for Craftsman Professional series. So that's all my diagnostics, at least my diagnostics that I have in my toolbox. Yeah, I've pretty much gone through everything I think of that's in my box. I guess the one item tool that I didn't show was my little grabber tool, which I'm sure everybody has, and that one has a flashlight. Lost my other one, so I just recently got that from Amazon. But I love the toolbox. I would love to have an Icon or even a US General, I guess now Series 3, 72-inch, just because I do like having my sockets up higher to use compared to down by my knees. I'd rather have my wrenches down by my knees because the wrenches I don't use as much. But the Tactics one I got probably 10 years ago from a local store called Farm and Fleet. I think top and bottom I paid $1,500 for it. And it's a wonderful heavy duty. It's got 6 casters on the bottom. It's a wonderful heavy duty toolbox. It's just, I would love to upgrade hopefully one of these years. But yeah, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, if you want to send pictures of your stuff, feel free to comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Next week, hopefully, if it's not 1 degree outside like it is today, I'll go on the other side of the garage, showing my other toolboxes, go through those guys as well. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, don't forget to click like and subscribe.